Hi, I'm Brian Armstead for Planet Vehicle, and welcome to beautiful Oman, where we're test driving the Bentley Continental GT. If you've never been to Oman, it's a sensational destination. It combines the best of traditional Islamic culture, new and old world, and the roads here are just fabulous. And what better car to have on these roads than the Bentley Continental GT? Folks, we're going to break it down for you in just a minute. Dr. Ulrich Eichhorn from Bentley is going to join us. He's going to get behind the wheel. He's going to show us all of the ins and outs of the car, the performance, the technology, the incredible handling, and of course, safety and style. Planet Vehicle will be right back. We're in the beautiful, sunny Sultanate of Oman with Dr. Ulrich Eichhorn, who is the member of the Board of Engineering for Bentley Motors. And Uli, an amazing car, the Bentley Continental GT. Give us a little breakdown of the performance attributes and what Bentley hopes to accomplish with this new model.
This is the new Bentley Continental GT. 8 years ago, we launched the first generation, and we wanted to follow this up with an evolution of the icon, so to speak. The Continental GT is the most successful Bentley ever. Actually sold more of these in 10 years than we did sell Bentleys overall in the 70 years before that.
That's a pretty amazing statistic.
And it also is the world's most successful 12-cylinder coupe. Now, with the second generation here, we obviously wanted to follow that up and build on the strengths that we had. And the strengths are always the power and sportiness, the refinement and the craftsmanship, which you can see in this car in abundance, and I can elaborate a little bit more on those.
Ulrich, the whole concept behind super luxury, you've really redefined the book with this Continental GT. I mean, since 2003, it's been the first really, you started the trend of affordable supercars. What's the mystique behind Bentley? Most people are not anywhere close to being at this high end, but what draws people back to your brand and has drawn them in for so many years?
Well, it's an interesting mix. Bentley obviously is a brand with a great heritage. It's a brand with a...
Navigation talking to us here.
Bentley obviously is a brand with a huge heritage. We've had Le Mans victories in the 1920s, we had Le Mans victories in the 2000s, and it has always been a car at the very pinnacle, at the very top end of the automotive chain. But always it has not just been a luxury statement, not just a cruise mobile, but also a car for keen drivers. And with the Continental GT we put into one package a car that is a supercar in performance, is a luxury car in its refinement and its ride and comfort, but also has all the craftsmanship and the attributes, everything clad in leather, etc., that no one else can offer. So you get everything that any car lover, any connoisseur of cars would ever want in one car. And what we find is that a lot of people who have had several cars before get into a Bentley and never drive any of their other cars again, but always do their driving in the Continental GT. Because you can enjoy all the luxury, and if you want a blast, all you do is put the throttle down, like I just will.
Wow, that is incredible performance. Good gracious. Wow.
And it's not just straight line performance, but this is also something that corners with real confidence and competence. I can shift gears myself if I want to. I can leave it to the automatic if I want that. The chassis is superb.
It really is impressive.
Like on a racetrack. But we're still riding here very, very comfortably. I really love the precision that our chassis team put into the steering and everything.
Sorry to have you off mic there. I was hanging on for dear life. Can you repeat that about the chassis again, please?
I really like the precision that our chassis team has put into the steering. I can always run over those cat's eyes here. 1, 2, 3 cat's eyes at the apex, and then go out. And without even working on it, just thinking on it, you're on exactly the line that you want. And now we're coming into inhabited areas again, so I'm slowing down, going into top gear. And now we're wafting along in complete comfort, 1400 RPM, 40 miles per hour. Very quiet, very refined.
I had a feeling at the last rest stop when you told me you wanted to drive first that something like this is going to take place. But you know what? Even sitting over here, normally when I'm in the passenger seat, I feel a loss of control because I don't have my hand on the steering wheel. But what an amazing feeling of stability. Just watching you do your thing, and the chassis is composed and balanced and no tire squeal. I mean, I guess there's no tire squeal because you have steamrollers on this car, but just a real impressive driving experience. You know, how do you want to drive anything else if you have one of these in the garage?
Well, we encourage people to drive their Bentleys, and most of them do anyway. The other great thing that we did with this car was that we not only added to the sportiness and the power, and it has 567 horsepower now, it's up 15 from before, but more importantly,
Reached a stopover destination. A stopover destination is in the direction indicated. Keep straight on this road for a long time.
I like the way the navigation says, keep straight on this road for a long time. That's Brit speak for a few miles, huh?
yeah, when in reality it is difficult to stay. We can't go straight here because the road is rather bendy. So on the engine we are up 15 horsepower to the previous model, but more importantly we are up 37 foot-pounds across the range. So from 1600 RPM all the way up to 5500 RPM, you always have these 8%, 10% more push. And you feel that in the relaxed torque delivery that the car has. So whenever you feel like it, all you have to do is put the foot down, as I just demonstrated, and it just goes. You don't have to change gears, rev up or anything, just wherever you are, foot down, car goes.
Uli, the Sultanate of Oman, I know that the Middle East is a big market for Bentley. Why Oman for this particular trip? Why not Dubai or Saudi Arabia or Doha, Qatar for, you know, some of your more traditional glitzy markets?
We wanted to make the point that this is not just a glitzy car, that this is not just a car to pull up in front of the Sultan's Palace somewhere or the Emir's Palace, or to cruise the Corniche. It can do all that and you get noticed in it, but we wanted to emphasize what a great driving car this is. And Oman has fantastic driving roads, as you've just seen. This is actually a very modern state which has a good standard of living for everybody, has fantastic infrastructure like the roads that we're just driving on, and also it is a place that not many people are so familiar with, so it's not stereotypical, and it's a little bit of and has a bit of British heritage as well. We have good customers here in Oman, and we like the place. It's also very scenic, as you can see on the landscape around here. But most of all, it's the driving routes.
It's an amazing country, folks. If you've never been here, Bentley is hosting us at the Shangri-La Resort in Muscat, and it's just an amazing blend of topography and culture, Islamic culture, and traditional values and traditional Islamic culture. It's just an amazing experience. And the roads, you can see that this country has really developed its infrastructure. The roads are simply amazing for saying that word for the 12th time. But what an experience to be here and to drive such a magnificent automobile on such smooth, pool table smooth roads. Dr. Ulrich Eichhorn, I want to thank you for spending time with us today, and let's get back on it.
Thank you very much, Brian, and as always, there's no excuse too lame for me to drive a Bentley.
Thank you so much. Now it's my turn to have a little fun. I'm behind the wheel of this beautiful Bentley Continental GT, and well, since I'm driving, I'm going to let you hold the microphone here, Uli, and let you kind of narrate as we go along.
Sure, thank you, Brian, and thanks for chauffeuring me through the nice countryside of Oman here. at reasonable speed, traversing the continent in style, as they say. We'll actually be coming to a piece of motorway in a moment, and go more into the cruise mode then, from the rather faster mode that we had through the mountains. What you can appreciate even here, but what you'll see there very clearly, is that we have not only worked on the dynamics of the car that I've just demonstrated, the power, the sportiness, the road holding, the agility, but that we also improved the refinement or comfort, quietness of the car quite a bit. Actually, it is 60% quieter on the inside, 60%, more than half. And we did that by introducing acoustic glazing all around. The predecessor already had double glazing, but here we have an acoustically active layer between the sheets of glass that cuts outside noise transmission. So any flow noise that happens around, and you can imagine there'll be some flow noise at 200 miles per hour, and also any noise from trucks outside or something gets very much attenuated by that. We also have full-length undersheets under the car that do not only cut out road noise, but also improve the aerodynamics quite a bit. So like on a race car that has a flat floor for improved aerodynamics, we have that. And that also improves flow to the rear diffuser, which we have under the car, to give us some downforce at very high speeds.
Uli, if you could talk a little bit, when we were cruising along just now, I saw the rear spoiler come up. Talk a little bit about the active aero on this car.
Right, I've already mentioned the diffuser under the car, which is actually the biggest aero aid that we have, but we also have a pop-up rear spoiler that comes up at about 60 miles per hour. That gives us improved aerodynamics. It reduces drag ever so slightly, but mainly reduces lift in the rear because it produces some downforce, and that allows us to have a car that is both very agile at low speeds but very, very stable at high speeds. We do a test where we do about 180 miles per hour and then steer rather briskly, but the car always stays very stable and very docile.
180 miles an hour and you steer briskly.
180 miles per hour, that's right.
I don't think I want to be on the track for that event.
Of course, we don't recommend that for public roads. Right. We do that on test tracks that we have available that are also rather wide. So even if you make any sort of mistakes, the car doesn't, but if you make any sort of mistakes, there's absolutely nothing around that you could ever possibly hit.
At the second exit.
Now let's talk a little bit about the actual development of well, first, if you could touch on the key differences. I think from a glance, most people would say they look fairly similar, but it's an evolutionary upgrade for this new model. Can you talk a little bit about the differences between the two?
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Second exit now.
You're absolutely right. We always looked at it as a sort of an evolution of the seminal 2003 Continental GT, because really it has become an icon.
Leave the roundabout at the first exit.
Because really it has become an icon in its own right, and when we ask customers what do you want changing on the car, they said, well, maybe the sat-nav, but everything else, leave it as it is, but make the car new. So what we did is we concentrated on strengthening what the strengths of the car. What we really wanted to do was then concentrate on strengthening the strengths of the car. And those strengths were the power and refinement. We already talked about that with the gearbox and the engine. The refinement on noise we talked about, and on ride we also comprehensively retuned the chassis. The craftsmanship is another dimension, and then the everyday usability. There are lots of speed cameras here, so you should stay at about 140k. You're safe at that speed.
Okay. Now at 120k, we tripped one earlier, so I think I'll just hold it at 120k.
So from a functional point of view, we wanted to improve on all those things and strengthen the strengths. And we think on these three main dimensions. Every customer who knows one today and gets into this, comes from a 2010 model into the 2011, immediately notices that it's more powerful and more sporty, that it is more refined, and that the craftsmanship and luxury is also enhanced dramatically. One thing that we also kept is the everyday usability, because this is a supercar and a luxury car in one that you can use every day. Many of these cars you only want to use for very special occasions, or you only want to use, in case of supercars, you only want to use on a Saturday afternoon for a while. But this is a car that one can do pretty much all their driving needs in and enjoy every minute of it.
Last night when I was at the Shangri-La Resort, just relaxing in my room, I looked on the Craigslist for a used Bentley Continental GT, and in the Washington, D.C. area, I came across a 2004 model that was on sale, and it had 131,000 miles on it. And you typically don't see a rare supercar like this with that many miles, but I think that's a testament to the durability and the reliability of the W12 power plant. And it shows that, yes, in fact, this is an everyday car, and people do use them as everyday cars when you have examples of that kind of mileage on a high-end automobile like this.
Oh, absolutely. We come across that many times. Some people still buy this for a very special occasion, but most people end up driving, especially the Continental range, much more than they ever anticipate. I had one customer who I basically sold the car to, and he's a car fan. He has 12 cars and a garage that you only can dream of. When I spoke with him again 4 months later, he had put 30,000 kilometers, more than 20,000 miles on it. And I asked him, why did you do that? I thought you were mostly flying. I said, no, ever since I had this, I drive. We do get customers, of course, who drive very little with them, who keep the car for very special occasions.
Right.
But mostly we find exactly that. And we do test all our cars, the equivalent of more than 200,000 miles, and no major system, nothing must really go wrong on that. We also do some rather severe tests that nobody in his right mind would ever do with a luxury car, or any car actually. For example, we do a hot weather test where a car is put into the desert for a year and turned around after half a year. We typically reach the boiling point on the inside on hot days there, and nothing must go wrong on the car. There must not be any cracks or fading of the colors, no cracks in the woodwork, no slackening or discoloring of the leather, etc. Actually, sometimes when we bring those cars back after a year, we give them a thorough clean and then put them on chauffeur duty.
Very good. Now talk a little bit about and maybe you can't speak on this at all, but at breakfast this morning you spoke of a V8 power plant that's coming in the future. Just tell us what you can about that.
Right, the V8, we will, for the first time in the Continental range, introduce a second powertrain, which is a V8. I can tell you that it is a 4-liter twin-turbo, and we do this mainly for fuel consumption, fuel range, and CO2 reduction. And it will be one of the most efficient powertrains, high-performance powertrains in the world.
Now, is this a Bentley-developed engine, or is this from parent company Volkswagen?
This is an engine that we are developing together with Audi, and you will see versions of this engine in an Audi or in several Audis, and you will see that in our Continental range just the same, but with a Bentley tune, of course. I can also tell you that this will be absolutely a Bentley engine, the way it drives, feels and everything. So it has the tidal wave of torque that you know from all Bentleys, and it has the same levels of performance and refinement that you know from Bentley. Of course, it will be just below the 12-cylinder in power, and also will be just below that in cost.
I think that Volkswagen Audi has done a real service to Bentley by kind of leaving their hands off of what you do. I mean, it's really, you do what you do well, they do what they do well, and the marriage I think is a good marriage, but at the same token, they've allowed you to be Bentley, and I think that really shows through in the spirit of this car as you're driving it. Having driven cars, Bentley cars, before the acquisition and post-acquisition, the Bentley heritage and lineage is still there, and that's a real good thing.
Thank you. That was exactly our intention to do it that way. The Volkswagen Group philosophy is always, as you just described. Each brand is responsible for developing their thing, being true to their own character, to their own heritage, to what people expect from them. But in the background, of course, we have the vast resources and reserves, technology, whatever you want, suppliers, that only a big group like Volkswagen Group can supply. Also, at the Volkswagen Group, and together with Audi, together with all the other brands, there are always people in charge who love cars, who are obsessed with cars, one might say. And we all want to create great cars more than anything else. It's not the quarterly result that's in the focus, but it is making great cars and the long-term success of all our brands.
Okay, Uli, we're on our way to a shopping district here in Oman. Tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll do a walk around of the vehicle at lunchtime. Where are we headed now?
First of all, we'll turn off the motorway now and continue on a traditional country road towards Nizwa. We go towards Iski and then towards Nizwa on the country road. And what we find there, Nizwa is the old capital of the inner country before Muscat became the overall capital. It has a fantastic fort that was built around 1650 to defend Muscat against rival tribes, and has a huge stronghold tower, and has next to it a souk, a traditional bazaar or market, which is actually absolutely active, and that is where the local population buy their food, buy their clothes, buy their kitchen utensils and all the rest of it. It also is one of the biggest market for animals. There's mainly goats and sheep being sold there. No sheep, goats and different kinds being sold there, and it all dates back to almost 2,000 years. They're never quite sure how far back it goes.
Wow.
And this is also a very strategic position, because this is where the mountains end and where the flatter area that turns into desert of the inland begins.
Very good. So we'll see you at lunchtime. We'll do a walk around and you'll show us some of the luxury features, and we'll also take a peek under the hood. How's that?
Absolute pleasure.
This is the new Bentley Continental GT, the successor of the most successful 12-cylinder coupe in the world. And when we did the design, we wanted to evolve what we had before. We wanted to maintain what was good and strengthen the strength, actually. As you can see in the design, we've emphasized the horizontal, the width of the car, and it is actually about 40 millimeters, an inch and a half wider than the previous car. Another thing that you can immediately see, all those lines here, we've sharpened. Like here, what we call the haunch, the fly line there, and in many cases we had to develop new technology to do that. For example, the boot lid and the front fenders are made in aluminium superform, which is a fascinating technology that takes a piece of aluminium sheet metal and shrinks it at high temperature, 500 Celsius, over a tool, and is blown there by air. It's a fascinating process. It's like wrapping a complex form into cling film. The car not only has a complete new exterior, but also the interior is all new. And we carried the theme of precision and crispness in the interior as well. As you can see here very nicely on the contrast stitch lines, and they flow out in a way that mirrors the Bentley wings on our emblem. We have completely new seats, Cobra seat design we call it, which now have a belt presenter. Previously we had belt integral seats. We have an all-new sat-nav system that you have seen before, which is touchscreen and absolute state-of-the-art. This has a 30 gigabyte hard drive. It can store music, maps, etc. And on the way driving here, we actually watched all our route here in Oman on Google Maps, and you could see all the fine detail of the rock formations and everything. Fascinating technology. If I open the bonnet for you, you can have a glimpse of the 6-liter W12 engine in its latest version. The world's most sophisticated and most compact 12-cylinder engine. In this power level, it is 567 horsepower and about 530 foot-pounds of torque, all the way from 1700 RPM to 5500 RPM. The engine now is fully flex fuel compatible, so it can run on E85 ethanol or on petrol or on any mix of the two. It has an intelligent sensor that always detects what fuel we have in the tank and what the engine is being fed, and adjusts the engine management system accordingly. So we have absolutely no loss of power or refinement, no matter which mix of fuels we run on. You may be familiar that with good ethanol, with good E85, we get a reduction in CO2 of about 70%. It's 70%, which is more than you can get on any hybrid or any other technology, and it is in the crucial well-to-wheel measurement. It's not just a tailpipe, it's well-to-wheel. Also, with the lighter car, with a slightly better aerodynamics and the more power, this gives a useful improvement in in-gear acceleration and the same top speed as we had before of 198 miles per hour.
It's been a wonderful day here in Oman as the sun starts to set. We've really enjoyed our experience with the Bentley Continental GT. If you have an opportunity, please check it out. For Planet Vehicle, I'm Brian Armstead. We'll see you on down the road.